In today's lesson, we are going to edit our preferences to make it a whole lot easier to work in if you're a 3D artist or animator, especially one coming from the world of Blender. So, the very first thing we're going to change is the default app axis. Now, this is what I mean by the default app axis. If we head over to Blender, you will notice at the top right corner over here that our default app axis is the Z axis. And that can be seen if I select my cube, press G to grab, and then Z, and I move it upwards. So you can see that it's moving in the Z upward axis. If I press N, and I come over here to the item, and I do this once again, look very closely at the Z value over here. And I press my G to grab, and then Z, you can see that the Z value is changing. So that is our default app axis in Blender, which is the Z axis. However, if you come to Nvidia Omniverse code, look at the bottom left corner, you notice that the default app axis is Y. And to really prove that the default app axis is Y, we'll create a cube and then try and move it in the app axis to see which of our X, Y, and Z values change. So let's go to create, let's go to mesh, then in mesh, go to cube. So now we have our cube. So look very closely at the bottom right corner under the transform section. Look at our X, Y, and Z values and notice which one changes when I come over here and I move our cube upwards. So I'm going to do that now. Do you see that it's our Y value that is changing? The Z remains at 0. Good. So let's just undo that. So in order to change this so that our default app axis is Z, just like in Blender, which we are more familiar with, first go to Edit at the top left corner. Then come all the way down to Preferences. Then in the Preferences section, look to your far left. Come all the way down, scroll down, and look for Stage. Then under Stage, you see under the default app axis, it is Y. You want to change that, click this drop down arrow, then select Z. Now, you notice that there's still no change yet. So what you want to do to really confirm that your default app axis should remain Z is come to Layer at the top right section. Now, at the root layer authoring, select this. And then under the layer metadata section, you will look for world axis. Currently it says Y, but we want to change it to Z. So click the drop down arrow and then choose Z. And instantly you notice that our coordinates have changed to correspond with our new default app axis as Z. So to really drive this home, let's select this. And then now notice once again at the bottom right section which values change when I move it upwards. So there we go. Our Z axis is moving as I am moving it upwards. And that's what we want. Good. Now the second thing you'll notice is that if I select the cube, we do not see any outline indicating that this is what has been selected. Let me add another object to really drive home what I'm talking about. So let's go to the top left section, create, and then let's add a cylinder. So I'll just move my cylinder out because they are the same place. That's why you couldn't see it initially. Now, if I select my cylinder, how do we know the cylinder is selected? Now we are seeing our arrows indicating how we want to move this. But then if we were to select the selection tool over here at the top left, and I select this, how would I know that this has been selected? Or I select my cube, how would I know that this has been selected? Even though in this section, in the layer section, they are changing, but then it will be really cool if I could have my orange outline or any outline to indicate that this has been selected. Now, if we come to Blender, you will notice this. If I'm supposed to select my camera, you notice there's an orange outline. I select my light orange outline, then cube, an orange outline. this really makes it easier to work with when there's a lot of objects all over the place. So in Nvidia Omniverse code, what you want to do is just come all the way over here to the icon that looks like an eye, select that, and then come down to selection outline and then tick that box. And just like that, we can now see which object has been selected in our stage. So if I click my cube, you can see there's an orange outline. Click my cylinder, there's an orange outline. So that brings us to the end of today's lesson. Today's lesson, we reconfigured our default up axis from Y to Z, and then we also added a selection outline in our stage to make it a whole lot easier to see which objects we are working with. In our next lesson, we are going to get familiar with the navigation and user interface of Nvidia Omniverse code. All right, see you in the next lesson then.